Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Please join us as the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad celebrates its 35th annual Founders Day, Sunday, March 6, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. As the archives for the remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Crow is committed to the Black community and ensuring our voices are heard through Crow TV. Come support 35 years of this important work on Sunday, March 6. Masks are required for entry. Call Crow for details at 773-925-1600. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of LITE It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. So excited about today's episode, as I am each and every episode. But today, I have a very special guest, Tramika Craddock, who is a lifestyle coach for busy moms. And I was just telling her before we started that I need her in my life because it's hectic. But Tramika is you're from Atlanta, Georgia area, correct? Or that's
Yeah, so I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, but I like to tell everyone I'm from Rochester, New York, so I'm a New York girl.
Okay. All right. I have family there. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
So why don't you let me just first start off by saying how I'll just share with audience how you and I met. We both
Okay.
have children who are in their senior year of high school and preparing for college. So anyone who's been down that journey knows that that's a very stressful process, not only for your child, but the entire family. And we're in a couple of parent groups together, just trying to help navigate this process. And you were gracious enough to start a group me where, some moms were able to connect, which I thought that was absolutely awesome. And it also speaks to the work that you do, because I felt like you were trying to get us in a space where we would be able to share and navigate this process in a much, smaller, intimate environment. So that's how we met. And so I wanted to invite you on because of the work that you do with busy moms. And I am one of those busy moms who needs help. And I know my audience does as well. So why don't you just give us a little bit of your background and then we'll jump right into our conversation.
Okay, I'm sure. So thank you, first of all, Dr. Aginah, for having me here. And please remind me, do you have this your first senior, or because this is my first go round?
So this is my first go around, but I have a set of twins, who are seniors.
Double. Okay. So yes, that's how we met. So as you explained, I'm Tramika Craddock. I'm a lifestyle coach for busy moms. I've been in coaching since about 2017. Kind of did it off and on, if I can be completely transparent and honest. Wasn't quite sure how I felt about charging people to help them and things of that nature. Got really, really focused, laser focused on who my ideal client and audience was in about 2019. And it has been amazing since then. And so one of the things that I noticed is I was showing up for business, and I was showing up for all women. And then there was just like a flock of moms, like, oh my God, how do you balance it all? How do you be the PTA president? Now, like, I can't even get to a meeting. How do you be the whole president, right? You have a business that you're working full time. I still see you do date nights with your husband. Your kids seem to be in a good space. You seem to be in a good space. You have time for yourself. And that's when I kind of realized, like, okay, there is help and support that's needed in this area. And I know when I first became a mom at age 19, I felt like everybody they attended to her. She lacked nothing at all, but I felt like mom was forgotten.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I always tell my client is, you love on your babies while I love on you, because I do feel like there's a need that every mom in the world should know that there's at least one person that has their back that they can go to that's a safe space that they trust. And so that's what I am. Like, in layman terms, I know the whole, coach and all that, but I'm just the big sis
Mhm.
that's along the way, along the journey of every mom that I work with, helping them to become the best version of themselves, giving them things like organization tips, self-care, making sure they don't forget about themselves, time management, priority management, planning. I'm a huge planner.
Mhm.
And so that's what I do in a nutshell.
Okay, awesome. Well, I can tell you that you know, it's always interesting how when other people look at you when you're well organized and you're involved in everything, because I too have been and currently am the president of
Mhm.
my children's PTA, and along with working 9 to 5 and then, doing other things. And they look at you and they say, well, how do you do it? And sometimes it's really difficult to figure out how you're able to
Mhm.
be everything to everybody. And
Mhm.
the one thing that you did point out is that while as moms, we're loving on our children, spouses, whomever, but we're not doing the same for ourselves. So how do
Yeah.
you, with your clients, or even when moms come to you, how do you get them to begin to focus on, because that's hard to,
Mhm.
when you're
Yeah,
so
it is.
accustomed to doing for everyone else and you're putting yourself last, how do
Mhm.
you get moms to shift their thinking?
So that's a very good question. One of the things that I like to say that I do differently from everybody else, because I can give self-care tips. I can run down 100 self-care tips all day long, every day to every mom. And we know we need to do it. It's just a matter of sometimes the guilt, sometimes figuring out the time, and then a bunch of other things. And so one of the things that I uniquely do is I help each individual mom create their own blueprint.
Mm,
My self-care may not look like your self-care, right? Your self-care may not look like your sister's self-care, what your mom did for self-care, what your friend do for self-care. And so we need to analyze your family status, what you have going on, your work status. Are you working outside of the home, inside of the home? Are you an entrepreneur? All a stay-at-home mom. We look at all of those factors and figure out what works for you. And so the first thing that I always start with my mom, because a lot of moms feel guilty.
mhm,
And so the first thing is you have to give yourself an hour.
mhm.
Like, I want you minimally to give yourself an hour per week. There's 168 hours in a week. You can at least give yourself one. And so we take baby steps. So creating the blueprint and then taking the baby steps to eventually, I have moms like, oh, I'm leaving for the whole weekend. Turning my phone off. They were with their dad or they're with grandma and they'll be okay. And it's like, wow, just 6 months ago, you were not giving yourself like negative time.
Mhm.
And so it's a process. And so I like to work with them step by step and holding their hand along the journey. So that's pretty much what I do with the clients.
Okay. And so I know with COVID, with us still being in the midst
Hmm.
of this pandemic, is your coaching usually pre-pandemic, was it in person, or did you take time to do virtual or conference call sessions as far as coaching is concerned? And how are you coaching your clients now?
So it's always been virtual. So that was really, really good. There was some in-person things that I would do. Like I would do monthly meetups for moms. It was called Mom Talk.
Mhm.
And thank God I was able to pivot that to during the pandemic to do it virtual. There was some resistance. I didn't really want to do it because I love the in-person connection, but I was able to pivot that and put that virtual as well. But most of my coaching is virtual. And the reason being is I've lived in New York. I've lived in North Carolina and now I live in Georgia. And so I have clients all over. Like literally, I have clients in California, I have clients in Texas. And so I can reach more. And it's easier for me instead of a mom having to take time out of her schedule. You're already busy to
Right.
drive to a location, wait for us to, get in there, warm up, or whatever we have to do our session. And now you have to drive home. I would much prefer a mom to be using that time to do something for self-care or spend time with her family, whatever that looks like, right? And
Mhm.
so it's actually always been virtual. So it's actually picked up during the pandemic. It's grown.
That is great. That is absolutely awesome. Let me ask you this question, because I know in addition to the coaching, you're also a speaker and an author.
Mhm.
You mentioned that, or maybe I mentioned it, I don't know, but you are married, have
Uh-huh.
kids, and you're an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
For for a mom who is looking to branch into entrepreneurship, can you kind of share what your journey looked like? How were you able to balance it all? Because I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I remember when I got married almost 20 years ago. Yeah, it was 20 years ago. I was in my second year of law school. And I remember one of my guests at my wedding, he was a judge, and he said, "Why would you get married while you're in law school and you're working full time?" And he said, something's going to give, you're not going to be able to do it all or have it all.
Mhm.
And I know as women, we want to have it all if we
Mhm.
can, right?
Mhm.
And I worked really, really hard to try to balance everything. But there was a point in my time where I decided I was going to give up law school. And I don't have any regrets
Mhm.
for that. But for anyone who is trying to maintain a relationship, take care of their children, and branch out into entrepreneurship, what tips would you give them for trying to venture into that arena? And then how were you able to manage it all?
So it's a great question. To be honest and totally transparent, my journey was very rough in the beginning.
Mm,
And so, although I teach a lot of personal development when it comes to like time management, organization, things of that nature, I've crossed over in my elite one-on-one clients are the business coaching clients,
mhm,
those who are wanting to transition into full-time entrepreneurship. Because if I can walk you around the potholes that I fell in, I just need to be able to do that for people.
mhm,
So my book that you mentioned, Wife Mompreneur, talks about each chapter becoming a wife for the very first time, becoming a mom for the very first time in entrepreneurship, like what that journey looked like and how it was rough and how I was able to like overcome those barriers. Some of the tips that I would give to any moms that's listening or any individual who's wanting to have a lot going on but wanting to bud into entrepreneurship as well is I don't believe that there's any given moment where you're going to have it equally balanced. Like you just won't.
mhm,
And so what you have to do is you have to decide what's the priority in every season of your life. And so seasons can be a week, it can be a month, it can be a quarter, it can be a half a year. So one of the things that I teach all of my clients is the Magic Six. The Magic Six is six key areas of your life that you need to have goals in every single year. And then what we do is we break down our goals quarterly. At least two becomes a priority for that month, for that quarter. So it doesn't mean that, for example, let me tell you what those six are. Finances, in no particular
mhm,
order. So finances, family is one, and I had to break that down into kids and spouse or dating because when I
mhm.
said family, as moms, we're like, okay, what I got to do for the kids?
Yeah.
We're like, no, your boo, they need time
Right.
too. If you don't want to be a single mom, then you got to date. Like, so,
Right.
including that in there. So finance,
Right.
family, self, spiritual or faith, career slash business. And so what I in other relationships, because
Mhm,
oftentimes I know I was guilty of it. I'll have good girlfriends and it's like I didn't talk to you in a month or 2 months or 3 months. And if we want to continue to cultivate those relationships, we have to be fair in them. We have to make sure that we're given the time necessary to allow them to grow as well.
mhm,
And so all those six key areas, if we have goals in them each year, and then let's take for the first quarter of the year, we choose two as a priority. And I'll be completely transparent. My two are my family
mhm.
and my spiritual life. And that doesn't mean that I don't have goals in business and, with my spouse or, things of that nature. But those are the two things that needs Tramika attention immediately. And I can tell you with my kids, with my family, the reason being I have preteens and teenagers. And baby, they are at a point where they need all in my immediate attention, okay? Or the world
Yes.
is going to grab them up.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
went into 2022 saying that those are my two priorities. So
Mhm,
literally, it's baby steps. It's creating that blueprint. Like that is really, really key because again, you can read a lot of books. You can go on YouTube. You can be on social media. You can get a bunch of tips, but it has to fit into your life. And so creating that blueprint to say, this is the Magic Six. these are my personal goals that I have under these Magic Six. Now, which ones, the two, do I need to show up to immediately in my life, in this season of my life? And we go by quarters.
Awesome. I need to do some assessment right now because right now my priorities and my focus has been on family, my children, because I am a divorced mom of three. So I have three teenagers, a freshman
Wow.
in high school, and then the seniors. And there are times where I do feel like I am giving all of my attention to the seniors. So I kind of feel bad for my freshman, and I try and be there and show up for her. She is the one who's much more active. So she's in competition cheer. So now that's carving out time to make sure I'm there for competitions. And, you know, if she could do everything under the sun at school, she will. And, you know, it's just really hard because what I've realized, and I tell myself, I need to take time for myself, but I'm like, and you said that there are what, 168 minutes in
168 hours in a week.
Yeah, in hours, right. I still haven't found an hour a day. I try, but it's hard because there are the interruptions that happen.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, but what I think is important is even if you don't make it to that 1 hour, if you start off, like you said earlier, with baby steps and then try to gradually work your way up.
I want to back up for one moment, and only because, like, for example, the situation where you mentioned where you have the three teenagers and then you have two are seniors, but then you know you need to spend time with the other, just walking a client through the process, just so like you and the audience can kind of be clear on something that I would do. I'm a huge planner, and so I tell all of my clients, either you're gonna plan digitally or you're playing with I love pen and paper. Like words come to life to me when they hit the paper for some reason. And so how you would combat that or kind of get over that barrier is to say, okay, I know that I have these particular things coming up where they're going to be in this competition and I got to show up at this particular meeting with them, et cetera, et cetera. So I need to plan in time. I need to be intentional to say with the other teenager, we're going to go to the movies and actually put it on the calendar. And so that helps us to be intentional to make sure so that when we're looking at a January or a February or a first quarter, I can see that there's rhythm there. I tell people I don't necessarily fully believe in like a perfect balance, but I do believe in rhythm. And rhythm is when you're showing up where you need to show up in that given moment or that given season. And so if I'm saying or set aside time, you know, for dating or for this particular teenager individually or together, family time, when you map it out and you can actually visually see something, whether it's digital or on paper, then you see that your life is in rhythm. And so that's something that I walk my clients through.
And I'm glad that you stopped me and you mentioned that also, because what I immediately thought about, it's amazing what you forget about when you're accustomed to doing certain things. And I will say this about myself, I don't think that I give myself enough grace for what I do and what I'm able to kind of accomplish in balance. But the one thing that plenty of people can tell you about me is that I have a schedule, and I do. It's just that everybody else is on the schedule and I'm not on my own schedule. But I definitely utilize the calendar where I have everything on the calendar so I know where I have to be. And so sometimes people will reach out to me, and I try not to do anything last minute, but they'll reach out to me and say, hey, can you do XYZ? And I'm like, no, I have something on the calendar already. There were times where I have things on my calendar that's 2 months out, and people were just absolutely amazing. I said, but I have to keep myself organized in that way, whether it's for me or just operating my household. And it's really become, how am I going to function with operating this household? But it is helpful, but getting myself on the calendar. And I think that's the problem, the challenge with many of us. We either wait until something traumatic has happened, or where you know, you have to sit down to really recognize that you need to put yourself on the calendar or put yourself first. That also happened to me at the end of this year. 2021, we went on vacation and I injured my back. Do you know how hard it was for me I couldn't do
I'm sure. Yeah.
And so that was a challenge too. And I kept saying to myself, that's God's way of telling me that I need to sit down and take care of myself. But then old habits die hard and you get back into, that old rhythm. What tips or what would you say about for a person who maybe knows what to do, right? Or they are receptive of what they should do in terms of putting themselves first and creating some sort of semblance of balance, but then they kind of ease back into those old habits. How do you pull them back to focusing on doing something different?
Well, one of the things you mentioned, you're my people, because I love scheduling. And so literally just putting yourself on a schedule, blocking off the day, if you are scheduled, right? Everybody, some people have to build into that. So blocking off at least that hour per week. I always say an hour per week, something medium size monthly, and then quarterly something larger. So something larger that, depends on the person. That might be traveling, that might just be going to a spot, right? Or something for the day. And that might be getting with good girlfriends and having a good girls' night. And so literally in the beginning, when I'm planning out my year, because I do it the year prior, I'll write in the beginning of every month, like this month I need to have a girl night. So I may not schedule it the year prior, but I know it needs to happen that particular month. So if you're a scheduler, just making sure that you block in the time, I think is super important. Another thing for the mental shift, I share with my moms is your kids are watching. And so just as easily as you're not doing what you need to take care of yourself, guess what? They're going to take those habits into college, high school, starting even in middle school and high school. We need self-care. So they're going to take those habits that they're watching you. They're going to take those into their lifestyle as well. And so what do we want to teach them by making sure creating those boundaries for ourselves with our family and things of that nature? So most times that gets my mom. Sometimes they're still a little bit guilty, but again, it goes back to taking the baby steps. There's something that I have called the happy list. And the happy list is literally you jot down everything that you would love, from small things that may take 5 minutes to things like a trip to, you want to go to Paris or whatever that looks like. Because a lot of times, especially with busy moms, when we have that smaller amount of time to be able to execute, we're trying to figure out what to do, and then the time is gone. It's like watching a Netflix movie and you trying to find one for 30 minutes, and then now by the time you find one, you're sleepy, right?
Right.
And so if you go to that happy list, it's easier to execute. And then with planning, it's easier to plan those things off the happy list as well. And so literally for you, I would just saying put it in the schedule, but making sure you stick to it. Another way, last thing I would mention that really started me to like being serious and making it a routine for my self-care is you shouldn't necessarily use it as a reward, but there were certain things that I really loved. Like I love home decor. And so scrolling through websites, going out to the store to be able to purchase something and giving myself a small budget, I would start including that as a reward for myself at the end of the week. And so now I've built up to on Friday, I have the full day is my self-care. I have I eat a meal of my choice. I don't care what it is. It might have a lot of calories, but don't take that advice. But I eat a meal of my choice. And then I do whatever I want to do. So sometimes I hang out with girlfriends. Sometimes I might want to be with hubby. But the thing is, I get to decide what I want in that moment and for that day. And again, it's baby steps to build up into that. But I promise you, once you start getting like a little taste of self-care, you want more and more and more. Like, can I get a whole weekend in here somewhere? And so again, those baby steps and scheduling it in, at least 1 hour per week, something medium size per month, and then something larger quarterly will help you.
And I assume that everyone in your household knows that Friday is your day.
Oh, yes. Oh
Okay.
yes, I don't cook. I don't none of that. They don't ask me. They don't bother me because they know. Like I've been doing it for so many years now. They know. And I started with just like a couple hours on Friday, still doing business. And
Mhm.
then once my business grew, I was like, okay, I could take like a half a day off. Like it's okay. Because as a new entrepreneur, you're like, I can't miss sales. Like and then finally, like I don't take any clients whatsoever on Fridays now.
That makes sense. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I start to incorporate, because every time I try to plan something for myself, take a day to myself, there's a disruption because nobody's on board,
Mhm.
not because I will stop what I'm doing to do, for somebody else, which I have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, creating those boundaries. And then another thing I will mention as well that kind of got my family on board. I put out a post on social media about this yesterday as a command center. I have a command center in my house
Mhm.
where the calendar goes, a schedule. And on Friday, like I don't have to put it on there anymore, but they knew I didn't put like mom self-care day, but I would put mom off or, off duty or something like that. It's until everybody got into the habit or routine to knowing. And
Mhm.
even now, like if I have certain calls where I need, because I work from home, and so if
Mhm.
I have certain calls where I need them to be like super quiet or anything, I put it in that command center so that they know like this is a do not disturb hour, moment, or whatever that looks like. So that's another thing that kind of helps get your family on board as well. And just saying no when they ask no, not
Yes,
today.
because no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
um, so as we kind of wind down, I want to definitely, can you share how moms can connect with you if they are interested in coaching with you?
Yes, absolutely. So I didn't mention the event. I do have an upcoming event. It's Momscape 2022. It's June 10th through the 12th, and it's going to be right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in Peachtree City, Georgia. And that is a 3-day escape for moms because just like you and I and all the moms around the world, we're busy. We have these responsibilities, and so I'm making the intentional set aside time for moms to come. So all I need you to do is take the whole weekend off and show up, and we're going to make sure that the moms have a good time. And so I'm excited because this year we're moving to a bigger conference center. We've been doing it in a hotel, and so the conference center is huge. The hotel is very, very nice. We're going to have a pool party. We have like general sessions. We do a red carpet. We do a formal gala. We're having a 90s after party this year. After there'll be a lot of workshops. There'll be a vendor fair. So it's really, really nice. A lot of moms typically get with their mom friends and they come spend time with us. And so I'm super excited about that. They can find out information about that or any of my coaching services. My website is tramikacraddock.com. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook, the same thing, Tramika Craddock. And then also I have a Mom Squad community. So the Mom Squad community, we work on a lot of these things, like the personal development things. We do have the third week of the month is our mompreneur week, because we do about 80% of our moms in the community are either doing 9 to 5 in entrepreneurship or, they're entrepreneurs. And so we do focus that entire week on different business related items. But mostly what you're going to get in the group is like the organization tips, the time management, things of that nature, and the connection. Like they're awesome, awesome group of moms. And so actually for the month of February, we are doing a Spread the Love promo, which any mom across the world, because we have moms from all over, you're able to come in on a 30-day free trial. So this is something I've never done before, but I know that it's a need. Like moms need connection, moms need support, and they need the inspiration. And that's what the community stands for. And so any mom can come and join us for that 30-day free trial. And then, of course, I would love to see the moms at the Momscape. And then with the business coaching, that information is on the website as well. Or you're more than welcome. Anyone can text me 404-737 1086. Again, that's 404-737-1086. And you can text Momscape, business coaching, community, whatever you need help with, and we can start the chat from there and get you plugged in where you need to be.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think it is very important for moms to be um, around other like-minded
Mhm.
individuals who, because you can feed off of each other, bounce ideas off of each other, and then just knowing that you have a community of other moms who are, trying to navigate this space the same way you are, I think is
Yes.
very, very important, because sometimes it can feel very isolating. Like, I am the only mom in my circle who has twins, or who's, preparing for college, because either my friends are much older than me and their children are older. So
Mhm.
we've gone through these different phases at different points in times, but
Yeah.
having a community where you can connect with other women, I think is so very important. Let me ask you this before we go. So if you're doing all of this for moms,
Mhm.
you have someone that you kind of rely on for mentorship or for
Mhm.
support? Do you also have a go-to person? Because I think that's important. It's just like if you have someone who's a counselor and who,
Mhm.
providing services to others, oftentimes they probably have someone that they talk to
Yeah.
as well.
So I have 3 people, who's in my corner for sure. So I have my husband, who's my listening ear. Sometimes I tell him, I just need you to listen. I don't need you to talk.
Mhm.
Sometimes I want his advice. And so he's like my first go-to person all the time. And then I have a mentor slash coach. And I say that because she is my business coach, but we go beyond. We talk about personal stuff as well. So it's really turned into a mentorship. And then the third person who's so, so, so important in my life is I have a therapist. And
Mhm.
so I sit down with my therapist on a routine basis and I work on that personal development, because one of the things that I did learn is, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have to make sure that personal stuff is taken care of, or eventually it's going to bleed into business. And so I found out that the hard way. And so those are my 3 people that's taking care of me, while I take care of all the moms around the world.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you were willing to share that with us, because that is and I mentioned this before, people who are on the outside looking in, and when they
Mhm.
see you, they see that you have everything together. And it's not that you don't, but sometimes people have this false sense of
Yeah.
reality that,
Yeah.
well, you've got it all together, you don't need anybody. And I have to say, no, I have an appointment every week, or what have you, just
Yeah.
because I need someone that I can talk to or have an outlet. So I am definitely an advocate for us having someone that we can rely on, and to help take care of us as we take care of everyone else. So
Mhm.
I'm really excited to get to know you and to learn more about the Mom Squad and the work that you are doing. So glad that we were able to connect as
Yes.
well. So before we go, if you can once again give your website where people can find you and connect with you.
Yes, my website is tramikacraddock.com, and then you can find me on any social media platform. Same thing, Tramika Craddock.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of Light It Up. For those of you in the listening and viewing audience, don't forget that you can connect with Tramika. And also, you can give your feedback on this week's episode by sending an email to info@aginahmuhammad.com, or you can connect with me on all social media platforms using the handle Light It Up Podcast. Until next time, don't forget to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.